Good evening, everyone. Good evening, fellow panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Professor Oberoi and Delhi University for inviting me. What I hope to do is to share some of my own experiences that cut across the three pillars that are the subject of this panel: education, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And if you will, something that cuts across all those three verticals is this horizontal notion of intellectual property and how intellectual property can help you both to advance your own goals and to advance societal and enhance consumer welfare. So let me begin by sharing my screen. I hope you guys can see these slides. Are you able to see the slides?
Okay.
I hope you can see the slides now. There is tremendous innovation and fantastic creativity all over India. Obviously, in the technological side, I really don't have much to say. There is a tremendous innovation in software, chemicals, pharmaceuticals. India has its own COVID Covaxin vaccine just a few weeks ago. But there's tremendous creativity and innovation in the social side as well. Things like silk weaving, which is actually a fantastically automated, complex process. And these Kanchipuram silk saris that are so popular are actually, you know, not only a fantastic example of, you know, technology, but also a fantastic example of a brand that is recognized all over India and in many parts of the world. You know, we have folks in the Harvard Business School, et cetera, studying how food is delivered in Mumbai in these boxes, and how there's these little markings on these boxes that enable people to make sure that a hot lunch goes from your house to your office, just simply based on sending it on trains where the boxes are marked. There is amazing jewelry designs. There is food, there's a cosmetics industry, and you have numerous formulations in this area. And of course, you have Bollywood and the whole notion of microfinance and all over Asia. So in fact, there is tremendous creativity in all sectors in India. But what I find is that a lot of this innovation and creativity there's limited attention given to converting this into useful intellectual property rights. And there's limited attention given to developing brands, obtaining patents, and so on. And some of these are, of course, what I think are systemic sort of lack of knowledge about how intellectual property works. And some of it is also misconceptions about IP. And I'll touch on a couple of these things in the next few minutes. But let's just step back and ask ourselves, what is entrepreneurship about? So what we're really talking about is about 3 or 4 core activities. You might have developed an innovative product or a service, and you're basically trying to capitalize on that innovation, and you're trying to commercialize whatever it is you've come up with. And it includes things like marketing these innovative products and services, And of course, you need investment to engage in these activities like product development, developing services, effectively marketing them, etc. And it is really in engaging these core functions in any kind of entrepreneurial activity that IP plays a significant role in helping you accomplish these goals. I want to show you some data in a survey of startups in the United States where they were asked, why are you trying to obtain IP protection? And what we have here is a scale of 1 to 4 and a whole variety of reasons. And to the most compelling reasons with the highest marks to sort of the least compelling reason. And you can see, and this cuts across different sectors. It says the number one reason why people want to get IP is because they want to prevent others from copying their products and services. So they say, hey, if I came up with this, then I should be someone who should benefit from it. They also talk about how it improves the chances of securing investment, where you might have somebody who is willing to take a chance on you and who is willing to invest in your company because perhaps you can use your IP, maybe even as collateral, to try and incentivize or de-risk the investment in your company. Of course, there's a whole variety of other reasons, including improving company reputation, negotiating with other companies, so on and so forth. But the point here is that there is a lot of core functions in a company that can be enabled through IP. I want to mention that this, for those of you who are interested in looking up the whole study, this is a study by Stuart Graham and others from 2009 that was published in the Berkeley Technology Law Journal. We are, of course, have been talking about universities and education and how the education can further different aspects of innovation and entrepreneurship, but universities themselves are a source of fantastic innovation and creativity. Now, this is very well and very much in the news in India with all the various incubators that was mentioned by Professor Chauhan earlier in the opening remarks. And in fact, in the United States, we agree. We found that universities in the US are responsible for enormous economic development, responsible for whole industries, and responsible for entirely new markets. And this is true in a whole variety of areas. It's also another way for the private sector and so on to come in to the university, so that whether it is social, technological, scientific entrepreneurship, the private sector can be a co-player with universities to try to further entrepreneurship and innovation at the zeroth foundational level, where there is significant creativity amongst both graduate students and undergraduate students. The advantage of IP, particularly in a university setting, is that it allows professors, postdoctoral researchers, etc., to do what they're good at doing, which is innovating. And then, after obtaining IP protection, they can hand it off to somebody else so that somebody else can run rest of the relay race to the market. Maybe there's somebody else who is better at developing the brand, who's better at marketing. And maybe they're good at obtaining, the trademark protection, so on and so forth. And maybe there's somebody else who is good at tailoring the innovation to fit some consumer needs. But IP allows you to benefit when people take your innovation and run with it, so to speak. So for example, you might be the author of a book or a play, but if somebody were to, set it to music, if somebody were to turn it into a musical, you are still going to benefit. Or somebody decides to have audiovisual content and turn it into a movie, so on. Again, you can benefit as there is cumulative innovation that takes place. I saw an interesting study a few years ago where somebody took apart a simple Apple iPhone and showed how many different people, each of them contributing their own IP and each of them contributing their own technologies, how that ended up in the Apple iPhone. And there is a whole series of things from batteries and cameras to baseband processors and so on. But all of these companies all over the world, in Europe, Asia, and in the United States, each of them benefits. So when you pay for a few $100s for a phone, you don't realize that all of these people are getting their little slice from that. And in fact, are able to continue to do the things they're good at doing. Maybe they're good at building a gyroscope for a phone, the gyroscopes from ST Microelectronics, or they're good at the touch screen or a display. What intellectual property allows you to do is it allows every player in the value chain to be rewarded through a scheme of licenses where you share both the benefits and the risks. And it's really about control. And what do I mean by control? For example, let me give you some examples. The Cohen-Boyer gene splicing patent, one of the most seminal patents in genetic engineering, university originating technology from Berkeley and Stanford. Having obtained patent protection for the technology, it allows Berkeley and Stanford to say, if you're a nonprofit, you're a research institution, take it for free, no problem. But if you're going to make $1 from this technology, please give me a few cents. In other words, the engine that produced this innovation in a university, the engine needs to be funded. And that engine is university innovation. And of course, similarly, if we've come up with path-breaking medication, you can sign on to the global access licensing framework and say, hey, we want these medicines to be available in developing countries, etc. And we don't want to be a hurdle. We want dissemination. We want access to medicine. But at the same time, you as the innovator, you have a say in how you share your creativity, with whom and under what terms. Here's an example of what I found very recently. A whole bunch of companies have gotten together, and this includes a very long list, everybody from IBM, Microsoft, Hewlett-Packard, Facebook, Amazon, Sandia National Laboratories, so on and so forth. All of them have said, you can use any of my IP. And a lot of it is data science, data analysis, and so on. But if you're trying to do it to diagnose, prevent, contain, or treat COVID, then go ahead. There is no need to negotiate anything, and there's no reason for any payment. The point here is that you have the ability, when you have the key rights, to decide how your innovation is going to be consumed and how your innovation is going to be taken advantage of in the marketplace. So my message to you is, if you are an entrepreneur and you have some wonderful, innovative products and services, consider IP as your friend, and I'm sure you will not be disappointed. I'll stop right there.